Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, Podcast Pete and certified high performance coach. We have a special guest on our podcast this morning. Relationships matter. And when you put relationships first, wonderful things happen. So, Jen, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast.
Sounds good, Pete. Thanks for having me on here.
My pleasure.
I can't think of anything better than talking about how important it is to nurture relationships. So I'm grateful that you put this together. I can only imagine how many amazing people you've had on this podcast. Um, Hello, my name is Jen Starks. I'm senior business manager at a company called All Things Neuro. And what we do is we help people who have experienced a brain injury due to some type of accident, personal injury arena, and we help restore them to recovery. My personal role is to help bring in patients by building relationships with the medical side as well as the legal so that we can help bring those people from a place of injury to wholeness. And I get the pleasure of serving on in my company and also just helping being an advocate for those who've experienced a brain injury, and it's a pretty big deal. I feel very grateful that we get to enhance the awareness around brain injuries, and so it comes very easily for me in a sales role to be in this capacity. So thank you for having me.
Well, it's beautiful. You're speaking two wonderful words of encouragement for me, brain injury and relationships. And so I've had both. So I've experienced them from a perspective of a brain injury, and I've used relationship building for about 10 years, and we'll get into that. But tell me, like, how did your relationship journey start? Because I knew you from way back with a company called Send Out Cards, and it was a relationship building company. How did you get involved in it?
Well, I would backtrack to when I was younger, and I actually pursued a psychology degree as well as a counseling degree. And my mom had passed away after college. And when I was pregnant with my first, I just opted to spend my precious years at home with them and forego getting into some type of social work position counseling. I also was very aware that that type of compensation it's not that profitable, and the benefits and costs just didn't make sense. And so when I emerged out of being a stay-at-home mom, I quickly learned that number one, I enjoy getting back out there and building relationships creatively, and then finding a way where that can be monetized by service and by representing companies and missions that I can stand behind. And at the time, I was still homeschooling, which is where I learned about the send out cards. And I was honestly not very good about sending any cards. I was very against paper, even. So it's kind of a funny journey that I've come into it. But I quickly realized that this was a business tool, and it basically took me from the home into the community. And it's something just lit up inside of me. And I realized that this was a component I had been missing. And so I would meet with these people and I was learning how to network and all the principles of the company, which is about how to foster stronger relationships. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Just was so applicable coming from no network and not knowing many people in the business arena to applying those and quickly accelerating a deep connection and a lasting impression. And I think anyone, now that I've utilized and really have focused on relationship marketing professionally for the last 8 years, I can't think of anything more important than honing those skills, any role,
Yeah,
any company.
I totally agree with you. I know when I needed some assistance with different people, I called you, and you gave me wonderful referrals that were just absolutely the best. And being in the Google business and digital marketing, I would always talk to people about exposure, but the relationships do matter, and they are critical. When you say this person is worth pursuing or checking out, I'm basing it on you, not the person I'm meeting. So it is so important when you are in that role to value that. What did you see? And I want to get to the cards because I have a cute story, not a cute story, emotional story. When you started, implementing relationship through cards, it is kind of a weird thing to think you're building relationships through a physical card. But share with our viewers what you experienced by implementing cards and building relationships that way.
Sure. I would say that it's not necessarily the carbs, but the whole process. So, first of all, um, this is something that when you're building relationships is it just takes it to the next level. You can sit down with someone, and basic principles of relationship marketing is number one, be interested in the other person and really understand that the agenda isn't to figure out what can you get from that person, but who is this person from just a divine being, like just sitting in front of you has a whole story behind them besides their job, or there's so much to them, and being interested in those people. And when you sit down with them and you get to know them, parts of them will be relative. And so you might say, well, that's similar to my story. And so you start building these authentic connections between who you really are and who they are. And by genuinely wanting what's best for other people and saying, how can I help you? How can I serve? How could we potentially work together? You have no idea how many different types of relationships could be beneficial. It's endless, the potential of this person in front of you. And when you pay attention to that and you listen, then there are things that they say or they're experiencing. Maybe you're meeting with someone, their daughter's getting married in a few months, and how wonderful that is for him and his family. And then you connect with them on the next level. Maybe you become social media connected, or you get to know them again, and you see them as they get closer. And then the wedding happens, and guess what? They post it on Facebook, or they send you a text message. I can't think of anything that is more potent to take that picture and put it on a card and send a congratulations when they're not expecting it. They probably haven't had any picture even printed yet, and it's coming from you, and you don't have to do it. It's coming from a prompting inside your heart where you want to be a part of it, or you're reflecting how wonderful it is for them. And it's not about your self gain. And when you send that to them, you f- you change inside. It's a level of gratitude that comes from inside of you, that you send that love out, and they receive it a few days later, blown away that you took that effort to do that. And it touches them in a place where they'll never forget. And those
Mhm.
become keepsakes, and they remember it forever. I have so many stories from the last 8 years. And it's one of those things that's easy to do, but it's easy to not do. Because if it's something that you have to go to the store or you have to print out a picture, it's not going to happen 9 times out of 10, or for me, it would be 10 out of 10. It just wouldn't happen. So it's something that if you just are intentional and you're thinking about other people and you see these opportunities, you can have a ripple effect every day on people by just taking a few minutes and sending it out. So it's an incredible experience. It's kind of like going to the gym though, Pete, and we see each other at the gym now. It
Mhm.
works when you actually make it a habit and you apply it. And
Yes.
it feels really good when you do it, but you have to also build in systems so that you are consistent. And so that's what that send out cards program offers. It's not only just the ability to send a card or a gift, it's the ability to create the system so that you can build authentic relationships in whatever capacity. It could be someone you just met as a potential prospect. It could be someone new that just started working with you. It could be an employee that had a
Mhm.
birthday or celebrated a milestone or did something spectacular that you wanted to point out. Or maybe someone's struggling and you have a hard time bringing it up in front of them, but sending that card can really let them know that you're paying attention and that you care. And that's huge.
Yeah, it is, and I think I've been involved for 10 years, and I probably sent at least several thousand birthday cards. And so when you look at what comes in the mail, I think of the mail as bills and junk. And when you send out a birthday card, definitely separates from those two, and it connects emotionally
Mm,
with people. And I won't mention a name, but this person moved out of town, and I have a group of people, maybe a couple hundred people that I keep track, that I make sure I acknowledge their birthday. So anyway, I send the card like I always did. And this person lived out of town. Well, she moved back, and I saw her for the first time in a couple years. And she said to me, she goes, "When I got that card, I was in a tough place in my life."
mm,
And she was at tears about a card that came to her at the right time. And you just don't know when that time can be for people, because everybody goes on a journey, but you're acknowledging people with something special. And you're right. I always had people say, "Oh, look, I like handwritten cards." I said, "Yeah, great. But how many can, if you do it, but not many people do, but you can put a picture of that moment that you met the person, or something special, like you said about somebody getting married, in a card." And because it's not, you don't have to go find the card, buy the card, put a stamp on the card. You can do it. I do two a day. That's just kind of my routine. And I try to look for ways to really make something special, like you said, a gratitude. What do you think, if we go back to your journey with building relationships? How did that translate into what you're doing now with the neuro? Is it an association or a group, or
it's a company. It's a medical company.
okay? How
I
did that come about?
Oh, for sure. 100%, I wouldn't be where I am right now in my role. I just actually got promoted, which is very exciting. And
Mhm.
it came out of
Congratulations.
earning the space and taking initiative. And
Mhm.
um, if I hadn't met the people that I met 8 years ago and stayed in touch, your reputation precedes you, doing the right thing precedes you, your work ethic, everything that you do every day compounds. And when you're not just thinking about your own self gain and you're thinking about collectively, how can we all do better? How can we inspire each other? How can we grow in the way that is in alignment with where we're all individually going, then the right people come to you and you nurture those relationships over time. Number one, you have cheerleaders that are speaking on your behalf behind you, which is amazing and what a gift. You have people that will support you through transitions, hardships, that carry you along the way. And when you continue to reciprocate and see how you can help those other people, then opportunities come up. And guess who gets selected without hardly having to put in, well, no resume needed. I mean, it's one of those situations where you never know how someone may continue through your journey and how that might be a very important relationship. And that's true for
Mhm.
me today. And as I transition into different roles, the people who have been there and have been a part of that helped elevate me and introduce me and helps win successfully in business relationships. Even today and where I'm going to go tomorrow is going to be including those people, and they become part of your tribe. And
Mhm.
and people come and go, and they all have a place in that journey. Some are painful, some are wonderful, and they come and go, but over time you collect enough great people that are just like you, that value the same things, and you can continue on with, it's so much easier, honestly, because it's kind of like that snowball compound effect. A lot of work in the beginning of getting to know people, sitting face to face with someone and spending time with them. That's, it looks like it's nothing, but it's a very important part of the first step. And you have to know how to keep those relationships active and never assume that just because someone's doing something in a completely different field or is in a different place in their life that that person may be a very significant relationship that even outside of business, like personally and beyond, could be a very important person. So
Hmm. I love it. I had a stroke almost 4 years ago this February, and I still can't run. I still have to think about every single step I take. And you're the only person as a brain injury that knows that. So it's a unique path. What do you help when you're reaching out and helping people? Because I personally love when people understand the neuro journey, the brain injury journey, because every brain injury is different. And I,
mhm.
I would say at Shepherd, like, how soon am I going to be able to play golf? Well, 4 years later, I'm not
Oh.
really playing. And they would tell me, we don't know, because they don't know, because
Mhm.
everyone's different and every journey's different. So the brain is such a complex organ that
Mhm.
just affects like my emotion. I think part of the short term and my emotion was affected. So I can sit here on this podcast and start crying, and I have done it numerous times because it hits me emotionally, or I will laugh sooner than others because it does emotionally. What is with an organization so important as understanding that neuro journey? How are you helping them to connect with people like myself?
I think the most important thing that most people don't know unless they've had experience with someone close to them or personally is that it's a very internal experience. It's not something that you can see someone's broken bone. Um, it can be a very frustrating experience to have impairments that you used to have and know
Mhm,
that it's not that you potentially your identity has changed, who you are, everything
mhm,
gets impacted, and you have to deal with that. And that's an emotional experience of loss, as well as how do you figure out the best care? Because, like you said, it's very complex. Fortunately, we have a lot more medical advances when it comes to rehabilitation. That being said, um, there are many obstacles. It's expensive. You have very specialized people, and knowing who the right person is and how quickly you can get recovery, like get to have someone help you through physical therapy, vestibular rehabilitation. There's all sorts of people that come to the table when you experience a brain injury. And I think the most important thing is step one, the validation to the person that I understand that this is a silent suffering that is hard to even articulate, especially if that has been the part of your brain that has been impacted. It can be
mhm.
very wide ranging to not being able to see color in the same way, to not knowing how close the next object is in front of you, to having the thought in your head and actually having it come out of your mouth, driving, getting up and down. I mean, there's so many areas. And so being an advocate and helping in my space, it's acute injury that occurs. Although our doctors see people of all sorts of reasons, from Parkinson's to Alzheimer's to strokes. But in my particular arena, it's a very time sensitive matter to try to get people as close to recovery as possible. But there's always, you can never fully recover from a brain injury. And so having the people who are in the front lines, whether it's an attorney or it's their primary care provider or a chiropractor, notice symptoms and ask about it, because if it's not asked, that person may not know to say it. Oh, I'm having a hard time sleeping, or I have a headache every day and it's been going on for many months. There's all sorts of different symptoms. So unless you ask it, you can't get the care you need. And then being able to bring those resources to the table. And it's very unfortunate that it is limited because it is expensive. And then in personal injury, people have to work off of someone else's insurance's policy, and sometimes it's just not there. And we also we also work on the mental health side. So PTSD, anxiety, depression, another silent suffering that is extremely important,
Mm,
impacts every part of your life. And unless you get the care that you need, you're going to hobble along through the rest of your life. It's not something that just goes away. You need resources. And so it's important that people are able to connect with the ones that may give them a sense of hope, and to walk them through so they can reach as much as they can. B, you've come a long way. I mean, just walking the way you do, and you're doing all the right things, and that's even having a purpose. That is important. Having a mission and doing something that feeds you spiritually and you see how it impacts people, that helps recovery. And
yeah.
you never know how something might come along that's going to help you get your golf game on. And so it may happen, or being being able to love something new that you never would have taken on because you were too focused on golf and meeting with people. So there are all sorts of ways, but it's important to look at it holistically. And I'm grateful that we look at all different types of the brain injury.
Yeah, it is important what you said holistically. Like I play golf 5 days a week. After work, I'd get up early, and then at 5 o'clock, I'd go meet my buddies and we'd play golf. And so that was kind of my sanctuary, my place of just competing, but yet doing something actively. And I ran too. And so that was my place that I just could think. So both of those were taken away, and you had to you always got to pivot in life. Now journaling and podcasting has replaced those two things that I did all the time that I got so much satisfaction from. So it is a matter of adjusting. And I tell some of my friends, if I never have to drive another day, another minute, I won't miss it because I'm sensitive to light and sound. And
Hmm.
in Atlanta, people are tooting the horn and they're racing in and out. And my brain is just not it doesn't connect with that kind of environment. So I can't wait for the self-driving taxis, the robo taxis, the Teslas, who put us in a position where we don't have to think. Because I do have to complete silence when I'm in a car because I have to be focusing on a higher level of just alertness. What do
Right.
you say? Like, I'm always curious. Like, I met with a friend of mine. I went to high school with. We would talk because the CEO of his company had a stroke and had a brain injury. So when I was home 6 months ago, we met and we talked through our journey. And he's at the level where he could get anything he wants because he can afford it. And when he was asking me, I'm saying like I'm like the Chinese where I don't have all the resources, but I got to figure it out. And you're like the Silicon Valley where you can have all the money in the world and get whatever you want. So I said we have different journeys, but we're all trying to figure this thing out. And when he was telling me all his resources, it was blowing me away by the things he could get, hyper
Hmm.
chamber, all these kind of things that
Hmm.
are holistic, but they cost money.
Yeah.
So, what would when you're talking with people that don't have the resources, or your company is how do they pivot? What do they do for people that need the help, but maybe they don't have the hundreds of thousands of dollars like some people to get that support and help in a brain injuries?
Yeah. It's a sad circumstance on everybody's part. Nothing more devastating. And for the ones who end up choosing to do some type of counseling, that's an area where they're able to process. Some don't
Mhm.
want it. Some are too closed off or not open to receiving that type of support. And they kind of have to figure it out on their own. But for those who do, it is a matter of coming to an acceptance of a new life, and that takes time.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, these things happen to people who didn't choose to be injured. You didn't choose to have a stroke, right? There's all these things that was like yanked from you without your conscious or it wasn't your fault. And that's a hard pill to swallow in general. And usually it's not just a brain injury in this type of situation. It may be that they're going to have s- multiple surgeries, or they're going to be in chronic pain in their back, or a number of other sustained injuries that long term is going to impair them and they won't be the same person. But everyone has to adjust, and it does take time, and it's helping them understand that everything just is a process, and
Mm.
there's a new way of living, and that you can choose to adopt that, or you can choose to stay in a place where you're in that blame victim, hopeless, and that's a hard spiral. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, when they come to us, it is an acute time. It's not something where ongoing we stay with them. We have to then refer them out to someone else that will long term help be their resource. So we're just the beginning part of their journey.
Mm, okay. Well, I had a gentleman about a year or so ago that was on my podcast, and afterwards, we I said to him, like, "How did you find me?" And he goes, "I don't know. I have some people that look for things." But he said this: we're all familiar with PTSD, so post traumatic stress disorder. But he said, take the D and put G in it, post traumatic stress growth. He grew up in a concentration camp in Russia at age 5, not exactly your ideal preschool. So, what it did for him changed his life, that he was able to grow from that, appreciate things, and go on to do some amazing things in his life, being a top singer and in Russia. And now he's just, I mean, the guy is, like, when I looked him up, I was like, wow. So, what for you personally? So, when you look through different things in your life, where have you seen that moment where you grew instead of, like he said, either you grow, you get better or you get bitter. There's two paths to choose. Where did you grow through something in your life that maybe was challenging, that at the time you weren't too happy to be there, but you grew as a result of it?
I think anytime we have a circumstance that we didn't see coming, and or we did and we know it's going to be a life-changing event, we have that fork in the road where we can choose to see it as a hardship, or we could see it as an opportunity where this gives you that fuel to define you. And when I think of all the people that are at high positions, or I really admire, they've all experienced something very challenging, very difficult. We could call it trauma in some type of form. And
Hmm.
they made that their breakfast, is like that gave them the drive that they needed to. Offhand, I mean, going through a divorce with four small children was um, a very big time in my life. And it was kind of sink or swim at that point. I had to be able to live independently. So that was a big fuel for me. And also, to be a mom of 4, I know that they're watching me at every turn that it can, and so I know that impact on them, and it inspires me to keep moving forward and say, "Hey, what would I want them to how do I want them to grow up? What kind of example do I wanna be for them so that they can see that journey, that through hardships you can rise and you can be in other places that would be unexpected or maybe not even possible." I don't think
Hmm.
that sometimes people can achieve greatness without that type of trauma or hardship or something that happens to them to help define who they are. And I think it's a gift. I think a lot of people who have overcome cancer and they change their attitude in that same way. Sometimes they say I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be as blessed. And I thank the cancer because it made me the
Hmm.
person who I am. And that's a beautiful thing. I think that, if you even look at Jesus, you know, it's like without that suffering, without that type of
Mhm.
sacrifice, that you really can't have the true message. You can't really have that full impact without it. So I don't think we were born on this planet just to have good experiences. We have to have the contrast of the joy and the suffering to really make us fully human and to embrace it. Just saying,
Mhm.
okay, here we go. This is the part in the journey where it's hard, and let's go, you know?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I do. People will say, I don't know, conversations. You can't really tell unless you ask me to high five you with my left hand, then you can probably tell. But I'm able to adapt, walk, whatever you want to say. But here's where I think is challenges do make you. And well, people will say, well, I'll say I had a stroke, whatever, and they go, oh, I'm sorry. I'll say, well, it's just a matter of perspective. I'm not sorry because it changed me, and it changed me just like you're describing. It gave me a second chance on life. So that mortality motivation changes the way you live your life, the way you appreciate, how grateful you are for people, all those things wrapped up in one. I wouldn't want it any other way, but the journey was never an easy one. But when we saw each other at the gym, you were sharing with me that you were on a program and that it was challenging. Could you share a little bit about that journey? Because I think it keeps going into other areas of our life, and certainly our health is important, our physical health. But would you mind sharing,
Sure.
what journey you're on with I don't remember the exact term.
Sure. It's called 75 Hard. I'm actually
Okay.
on day 68 of 75. It's pretty exciting.
Whoa.
So yeah, back in October, I hosted my first national conference here for my company, and it was the biggest event I've ever put together. And just kind of like a pregnancy or even like a big wedding, there's the month leading up to it gets really intense. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of pressure, the emotions are heightened. And I realized at that time that in order to really pull this off and to show up the way I want to at that conference and my measurement of success, I needed to make a change because I was getting stressed. I was like taking naps because I just was having a hard time making through the day. I was feeling overwhelmed. I wasn't eating as well, and so I was meeting with a friend who was on that journey of 75 hard, and I realized, and I had tried it in the spring, and I only made it in 11 days, which 11 days is still pretty good. But
Mhm.
um, I was like, you know what? That's what I need to do. I need to double down on myself. And sometimes people would say the opposite, like, well, that's a lot of time, and I'll explain the program. But I was like, I can't think of anything more important than investing in your health, especially when the stakes are really high. And so
Mhm.
I decided to do it a month before the conference, and there are 6 things involved. You have to work out twice a day for 45 minutes. One of them has to be outside. You have to drink a gallon of water a day. You have
Mm.
to read 10 pages in a physical book. You have to pick a diet, and everyone gets to choose their own diet, but it's a diet to improve your health. You have to pick a diet. You can't drink alcohol or have any cheat meals. And then you have to take a progress picture every day. And
Mm.
if you miss any one of those 6 things, then you have to start over.
Whoa.
So there were times where I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I've literally been on the treadmill reading my 10 pages, chugging my water. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes when I haven't spaced it out enough because I have to go to the bathroom. But
Mhm.
it is also a spiritual journey. It's not when you really prioritize your health, there's a cascade of benefits. And one of them
Mhm.
is that you light up. There's a different part of you that gets activated, that you have clarity, you are calmer, and you can spiritually do some work on yourself that you can't if you're not feeling your best. So it's been transformative. And yeah, so my kids are all on board too. It's great. When we've been traveling, I'm like, sorry guys, I have to go out and walk. It's like 9 o'clock at night. And they're like, what? I'm like, I have to get my second workout in. This is the only time I can fit it in. So
Mm.
you have to have it before 11:45, and then it's a bust. So
Dang, I love it because I love deadlines. I love accountability. I love systems like that. And I know for me personally, I don't drink enough water. I start off really well, but then I tail off towards the end of the day because I don't know why. Maybe I don't have that gallon thought. But you do have to have, you know, markers in your daily life because it does matter your physical stamina, health, clarity, all those things. And it's interesting took that challenge before a conference because I know people that have run them and they're intense. It's not like, hey, I'll get to it tomorrow. You have deadlines every single day of things you need to do. And physically, you have to raise the bar if you expect it to be as excellent as you want it to be. So, what did you learn from the time you did 11 to 68? What did you learn about yourself? Those two moments.
I would piggyback on what you just said, that building in systems and carving out the time. Number one, it's a mental thing of saying I'm worthy enough, and I'm going to make this a priority, even if you think, well, how's this going to impact being able to do my job? And I mean, there's all these things that can set us back, saying I can't fit it in, or that's too much. But if you say, okay, I'm committed to doing this, it changes everything. It's that first level of like truly committed. And then you have to literally, for me, I have to put it in my calendar. Okay, every morning I have to think to myself, when am I going to get certain things in? And then once you create these habits, they stack on each other. If you read Atomic Habits, so
Mhm.
it's great because it's helped build a morning routine that I would be inconsistent with. But now, because I'm like, I have to get this in now, there's more of a get your butt out of bed. And then at the end of the night, I have a stronger self care end cap that I finish out the day. And because it's that many days long, it gets less hard, but it also makes you be held accountable, like you were saying. Oh, it's 4 o'clock and I haven't gotten my third round of chugging water in. Better get it in because you're not going to wait till after dinner to do make up for, because we
Yeah.
all pay for it when we wait too late. So
Yep.
it's that structure is good for me because it grounds me, and it gets me focused on fitting it in. But then it's all on me, and I mean, I'm my best and worst enemy.
Mhm. Yeah, I've run into a lot of people in the last few years of like housewives getting back into the working world. They raise their kids and now the kids are out of the house. They're more independent and their career was put on hold for, 15, 20 years, whatever it was. And it's like how do I get back in? What the world has changed. So if you were speaking to your, let's say, 30-year-old self or 35, whatever it is, what advice would you give that person now that you know what you know and that you've gone on this journey? How would you advise that person when they're stepping back into the workforce?
First, I would say now that my oldest is a senior, I've truly recognized how quickly it goes. And the time that you have with your kids, you can't get back. And it's really easy to be tempted when you're ambitious, or you feel that pressure when you're in your job, to make your job a priority over doing stuff with your kids. And it's important to find a culture that values family. If that's important to you now, I mean, if you're staying home, I'm assuming that was a big deal. And that no amount of money and making and earning will replace that time, because once it's over, it's over.
Hmm.
And the version of who you were before you raised kids may not be the same version of who you are when you're coming out. So it's important to find something that brings you joy and fulfillment. And you have to redefine what are your strengths. When we went to school and we thought, okay, this is what I want to be, we were in a different place in our life. if you figure out what are your real core strengths and then you apply that to going out in the workforce, you don't have to start over. They're just a part of who you are. It's just learning who to connect with. It's again about relationships. So identifying who are the types of people I need to be talking to now to build opportunities to get out in the market, because you might do there are endless types of jobs out there, but don't just go for the job. Go for something that gives you that purpose and helps you pull out your strengths so
Mm,
that you are excited when you go out there that you're using it to benefit other people and it feels good instead of saying, well, I'm really bad at typing with two hands, so I better go take a typing course before I get out there. Like, no, just identify what you're good at naturally and then find people that need that type of strength in their company and find a good culture.
mm. I love that. Well, I don't want to be responsible for the person that took up enough time of your day that you didn't make it to day 69. 69.
I already worked out once
So,
this morning.
yes. So I want you to tell our viewers, how can they, I know with your journey and everything that you're doing today, people are going to want to get in touch with you. So tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of Jen? Oops, I'll put it up back up here. There we go.
Probably text message is the best way, but I'm also very involved in the East Cobb Business Association if you're here in Georgia. But definitely, I think that anyone who wants to learn more on networking and building relationships strategically, I can definitely help you with that. And
Hmm.
it it's a soft skill that is so important, especially as people talk about technology advances, AI. There are irreplaceable skills that are in
Hmm.
relationship marketing that will help you stay relevant and be chosen and um, have a more fulfilling career. So yeah, feel free to text me, email me, or you can find me on most social media platforms.
That is awesome. So, as final question, Jen, what what would be the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
Don't get so busy in your life that you don't stop and take time to appreciate and connect with the people right in front of you. Make those. It's not about quantity of people; it's about quality. So it's
Hmm.
easy to get wrapped up in the busyness, and also just if you're like me and you're wanting to grow and you're just like really excited about it, it's easy to bypass all the people right in front of you that if you just worked and nurtured those relationships would lead you to where you need to go instead of just more people, more people, more people. So slow down, create spaces in your day so that you can connect with people and take that time.
Ooh, I love it. Jen, thank you so much for the impact you're making and for sharing with us and our community your story and part of your story. We'd love to have you back to one after you reach your 75 to have that kind of recap of what that meant
You
to
just
you.
want to see my biceps after I'm done. I see how it
Hey, I tell
is.
you, it's looking good, looking good. That's so good. So thank you, Jen. We appreciate you very, very much.
Thanks, Pete.